Good morning. This is Daybreak News on Dominion Television. My name is Sarah Wane. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has extended heartfelt condolences to the people of Benue State following the recent deadly attack in Logo and Ukom local government areas, which claimed over 72 lives. The National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, said this while delivering the president's message during a meeting with Governor Hyacinth Alia at the Hold Banquet Hall of the Government House in Makurdi, stating President Tinubu stand firmly with the state during this difficult time. The NSA was accompanied by the chairman of the Senate Committee on Intelligence and Security, Senator Uba Umar, emphasized the federal government's commitment to restoring peace and security in Benue. The federal government have said a total of 991 primary healthcare centers across the country have been revived. The Executive Director of National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Muyiwa Aina, disclosed this at the quarterly press briefing and commencement of the World Vaccination Week to access the program of the agency. Aina also said that an additional 2,701 primary healthcare centers are undergoing renovation. He explained that the agency was leveraging heavily on technology to digitize healthcare delivery. Meanwhile, work resumed in Ibadan after the long Easter holiday. Dominion News correspondent Aina Grace reports the situation of things within the metropolis.
After a peaceful and reflective Easter celebration, residents of Ibadan, Oyo State capital, have begun returning to their normal routines as offices, markets, and government establishments resumed full operations today. From Dugbe to Mokola, Bodija to Secretariat, the usual hustle and bustle returned early this morning as civil servants, traders, transport operators, and business owners reopened their doors for the new week.
Easter, we have already tried all our possible best to manage ourselves. It's not a matter that everything is easy conveniently, but we just thank God that we're still alive, and God have already done it with signs and wonders.
Wonderful. We're just indoor after service, eat normal rice, and that's all.
Forward to gain more business this week, so as we enjoy the weekend, so we thank God for that.
My weekend was relatively short. I mean, short in the sense that I didn't really go out. I didn't have fun. So, as for personal reasons, that is.
Security presence around major intersections had also increased, ensuring a smooth transition back to daily activities. While some schools are still on holiday, many private establishments are already back in full swing. The residents, however, called on the government to look into the plight of the people by cushioning the hardship on them.
Difficult. Everybody have already managed it themselves, but I just believe in God. By God's grace, everything will be okay.
For me to work hard and make more money for my family, that's all.
We appeal to the government to at least put something down for us, like petrol, gas, other activities that it will help us to do our business.
Honestly, we all expect something new from the government. I mean, we expect, at least for salary workers, we expect, maybe say an increment in salary. We expect price of goods and commodities to come down, with price regulation. I think that's the least we can expect from the government for now, to ensure our day-to-day livings will be, bearable as it.
Optimistic for a safe and fruitful season ahead, even as they carry with them the hope and message of Easter. Aina Grace, Dominion News.
Thank you, Grace, for that. The Lagos State government has announced that the construction of 68-kilometer Green Line rail project from Marina to Lekki Free Trade Zone will commence before the end of this year. This was disclosed by the Lagos State Commissioner for Transportation, Oluwaseun Osiyemi, at the 2025 ministerial briefing by his ministry at Alausa, Ikeja. Osiyemi said that residents plying the Marina to Lekki Free Zone route will experience some traffic when the Green Line rail construction kicks off. and also uses the opportunity to appeal to Citizens Corporation where the rail project is ongoing. It disclosed that the first phase of the Blue Line Rail has transported over 2 million passengers to date, and the state government will deliver 3 additional rolling stocks for the Blue Line Rail in May. And now in business, Nigeria's broad money supply has surged to 114.20 trillion naira as of March of 2025, marking a significant 24% increase from the 92.1 trillion naira recorded in March 2024. This is according to the latest money and credit statistics report released by the Central Bank of Nigeria for the first quarter of 2025. The rise in money supply comes despite the Central Bank of Nigeria's aggressive monetary policy stance, including Monetary Policy Committee's decision to maintain cash reserve ratio at 50%. And now talking sports, Rivers United coach Finidi George has insisted that one-time player Premier Football League champion will not relent in the pursuit of a second league title. Despite trailing leaders Remo Stars by 7.4 games to go. The Port Harcourt side secured a hard-fought 1-0 win over Sunshine Star in a match-day 34 game on Sunday, but their hope of reducing the gap between them and Remo to 4 points were dashed as Ikenne side grabbed a vital 1-0 win against Southwest rival at 3SC. Abbas Suleiman scored the only goal in 83rd minute for the Finidi men. However, they have more work to do if they are to stop Remo from claiming their first title. You can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to listen to us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast, and on X at Dominion Cast. That ends the Daybreak News. I am Sarah Wane.
All right, welcome back from that short break. That was Daybreak News on Dominion Television, your channel of choice. We now head straight to the newspaper review segment where we'll bring you the major stories on the pages of the newspaper this morning. And that will start with the New Telegraph. And the major story on the New Telegraph newspaper is credited to the IMF this morning. Nigeria's Eurobond returns shows renewed investor confidence. And the rider on that story says project inflation to hit 37% in 2026, cuts growth outlook, urges vigilance as all demand declines. Edun Comments Fund. And that story will be found on page 3 and page 8 of the New Telegraph this morning.
Okay, also from the New Telegraph on page 2, this is the story of ECOWAS as ECOWAS meets in Ghana over exit of Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso. You can find that on the New Telegraph on page 2. Okay,
this story is credited to Private Ayori Shejafo, Kasali and Helbuba. You'll find that story on the New Telegraph. If nothing is done, we'll just be gathering widows, orphans. And the writers on this story they protest the killing of Christians in the north and then raise funds to ameliorate victims' plight. And then, credited to Malam Nouri Badu, the chairman of the NSA, Nigeria's insecurity not as bad as Sudan, Afghanistan. We'll take this other story on the New Telegraph this morning. Pope Francis' funeral holds Saturday. World leaders expected. And of course, you'll find that story on page 2 and page 4 of the New Telegraph. Away from there, FG probes alleged 5.2 million extortion by NSCDC officers. That story is on page 4 of the New Telegraph this morning. And then Bakari's Easter homily misled Nigerians. Senate and then says a remark on legislative decisions disparaging. That story is on page 7 of the New Telegraph this morning.
On page 27 of the New Telegraph, GMOs pose no unique health risk. That's coming from the federal government, as federal government insists and says biotech is a game changer.
All right, ECOWAS meets in Ghana over exit of Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso on page 2. And then we take this other one, Plateau killings, Fulani protest exclusion from security meeting. NBA calls for arrest. That's on page 5 and 7 of the New Telegraph this morning.
On the New Telegraph, IGP orders reorganization of mobile police.
Okay, GMOs pose unique health risk. FG insists. That's on page 27. Says biotech a game changer. You find that story on the New Telegraph. And on the upper third of the New Telegraph this morning, Nigeria's gas export improves by 47% as 688 billion naira worth shipped to Japan. Orders. That story also on the New Telegraph this morning, and that takes us to another paper, which is the Leadership newspaper this morning, Abby.
All right, on the Leadership newspaper, the main headline here says, Atiku El-Rufai orders must apologize to region. This is coming from Uba Sani. Insists, with some writers there, insists politicians failed the people. Opposition's criticism all about quest for power. I did well for the North, says Atiku.
Well, I think that's the back and forth you are getting from the North, especially at the time when a flag bearer from the North is to be selected for, for the position of president in Nigeria, at least to consider contest for the position of president. And that brings you to the fact that powerhouses are already creating their home blogs, saying who is on their side, and then how the fight is going to be, shape and reshape ahead of the general election. Okay, we go to another story. IOC's bypass direct crude supply to Dangote refinery. That story is on page 4 of the Leadership newspaper. And the writer says despite 60 million barrels of Nigerian oil stranded on high seas. Wow. That story is on the Leadership newspaper this morning.
Okay, so coming from the Leadership newspaper on page 19, Edo traditional ruler suspended over kidnapping. Wow.
Well, that story is well, you can get a copy of that newspaper, Leadership
and find
newspaper,
out the full story.
The full story. All right, Remi Tinubu leadership to empower 2 million Nigerians. That story is on page 7. I think we are beginning to see some pet projects from people at the soft position of power in Nigeria, especially the first ladies, governor's first ladies, the president's first lady. And then if you are saying more of this, maybe this will cushion the effect of hardship of Nigerians, especially at the grassroots level. I'm just saying, maybe if we see more of this.
At a point they said there was nothing like the office of the first lady.
Yeah,
so,
constitutionally.
I mean, there was a time when you really saw the first ladies, I don't want to go back, but I could remember like Miriam Babangida. She was everywhere. Yes. I think she was one that actually brought out that office. The office of the first lady.
I think the fact that she exposed the office, she brought it out in a different way, and made people see it differently at the time. But then at a point, it became more of a glorified office of the First Lady in quotes. But then, if we say it's not constitutional, it's not, recognized by the law, well, why are we having these monies being, pushed to have pet projects in that area? I think that's one area we should be looking at. Accountability is very, very important. If the law does not support it, I think there is no point having such office being, funded.
Okay, great. Okay, still on the New Leadership newspaper. On page 7, 2025, Hajj Nakam begins airlift on May 9th. Targets 40,000 pilgrims.
That's billions and billions of naira there. All right, away from there, talking about insecurity in Nigeria. Nigeria restricts movement of tricycles, motorcycles. You could remember just yesterday or day before yesterday, we were talking about the issue of insecurity in Nigeria Republic and how porous those borders were. And if Niger, Benin Republic, I beg your pardon, if Benin Republic had an issue with security and then several military men were killed, it means that Nigeria, who shares a border, really have to be on high alert. And if this is also happening in the Niger Republic, these are border countries to Nigeria. We share common borders, and there are thousands and thousands of borders in Nigeria that are not even guarded. So it means that we really need to be on high alert.
We need to buckle up and do a lot in terms of insecurity.
All right, away from there this morning, we head straight to the Nigerian Tribune. And the first story here says NSA in Benue says attacks tragic and evil, reiterates FG's commitment to ending insecurity. Warns against politicizing attacks, killing have devastated state's economy. That's coming from the governor. You'll find that story on page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
Okay, coming from the Nigerian Tribune on page 9, Senate replies Bakari, says, we are interested in result-driven engagement, not theatrics.
Well, I guess we Nigerians really do not need war of words right now. What they need is solutions and results.
Solutions, you know, not
so
plenty
if there's
talks,
any security framework on ground by the government, by the federal government especially, I think it should be put to use and, you know, see to the end.
They want to see more of action.
More of actions and not
less talk, more action. Because if we keep talking and talking and talking, but then we still have to talk.
Well, we have to talk, and I think the talking should be done by the people, by Nigerians, who are actually making their complaints known, making it known that, look, what we are saying now is not what we want to see in our communities. So the talking is done by the people, and the actions are taken by the government.
Those in
power.
All right. We'll still go here. I'm not in supremacy battle with any monarch. This is coming from the Alafin, and you can find this on page 5 of the Nigerian Tribune.
And there is a story on page 4 credited to the NBA this morning. Attacks on Plateau communities, direct assault on humanity, rule of law. I think this is quite important. I think the government, they have to be reminded of how devastating this is to the Nigerians, and of course how much of a big slap it is to the Nigerian constitution. If you are saying insecurity is you know, a major issue, I think we have to look at what the constitution says about it. I think the government have to be on their toes to make sure that lives and properties are safe, and then whoever is, you know, perpetrating this evil, whoever they are, wherever they are, I think they should be brought to book, brought to justice. If you know, an individual can be found amidst 200 million people, how much more of a group of people perpetrating evil in a particular community? It means that there's a trace somewhere. There's always a footprint, a map to trace to find out who exactly is behind this. And I think that's what exactly the government should be doing at this time.
And someone is likening it to Sudan and Afghanistan.
I think that's one of the most careless.
I don't see why we're talking about Nigeria here. How to work it. You're saying it's not as worse as Sudan. Is that what we should be looking at?
That's one of the most careless remarks you will find.
I'm telling you, is that what we should be talking about now?
Nigeria should not be compared to any of these countries is mentioning, because they are totally different cases.
It is Nigeria. Work on Nigeria. We are so not because it's not like Sudan, so nothing should be done.
Nothing should be done. I think that a life is lost due to the carelessness of the government every day means that a lot should be done to make sure this is nipped in the bud. And then to say that hundreds and thousands of people have lost their lives due to insecurity, that calls for, you know, a state of emergency on security in every part of the country. If there are accidents on the road, we will say those are automobiles malfunction. But then, if kidnappers, bandits, insurgencies,
I mean, you just stay in your house and people just invade, you know, and kill just like that.
And then to say the fact
lives are lost every day.
We don't expect, you know, the federal government to push their responsibilities to, you know, the state government. But then the state government also have to stand up and see what they can do on their own. We saw the introduction of the Amotekun Corps in the southwestern part of the country. I think it has been effective in some part of the country.
You know, when you talk about we shouldn't push the federal government, you know, what do you call it?
Their responsibilities
to the state. You see, that's where sometimes there's a problem. Because when it comes, you know, it's just like when you talk about roads. Oh, this road is not good. You hear people, oh, that's a federal road. That's not a state road. So that's why. Right. But if it's government still, whether you're talking of federal or state, the bottom line, they are all government, you know, leadership, yes. How can we work together to achieve this? Just like the states are doing with their Moteco, the federal government is doing its own, but we're all finding a common ground to bring peace, to eradicate insecurity in the country. Yes, we might not be able to totally, some people say you can never, but let's see.
At least do the bit
let's see something be done. Even people will know, okay, the government is trying on this. But I believe if they want to work on insecurity issues, we can. All
right, on page 13 of the Nigerian Tribune, government attack Kwara communities, kill 6. That's another security issue.
I mean, all through the papers, you keep seeing these killings here, insecurity. And you're saying we are not capable.
Away from there, Abby, let's take another story. IMF projects 3% economic growth for Nigeria. You'll find that story on page 24 of the Nigerian Tribune.
Okay, let's see on page, what do we have on Nigerian Tribune again? Okay, I've actually left the Nigerian Tribune.
43,000 Nigerians to perform 2025 Hajj from states armed forces. That's on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune. Also, talking about the Nigerian Tribune this morning, Senate replies Bakari. We are interested in results-driven engagement, not theatrics. Away from there, 35 years after, Iyam reminisces on Okaku, says Nigeria still suffering from master-servant relationship. That's on page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
35 years. Wow, how time flies.
It's been a long, long time.
Okay, I think from there we should get to the blueprint.
The blueprint. All right, you take that.
Okay, on the blueprint here, the major story is still on NACON, and states agree on May 9 inauguration flights and operations on
2nd of July.
2nd of July. We also have 7 killed in Kamanje. Elisha
Baruba attacks. That's a bandit informant nabbed. Okay. That story is on page 13. Elisha Baruba is between Kwara and Niger states.
Okay. Right, okay, so we had heard about a monarch being, arrested over kidnapping. So apparently, Pebolo, that's the governor of Edo State, suspends Edo monarch. So it's actually from Edo State. Okay.
All right, away from there, we take this one. Adebayo to Atiku-led coalition. SDP won't be vehicle against Tinubu in 2027. Vows to recontest on party's platform. Adebayo was the presidential candidate of the SDP in the last election, and he says, look, whatever it is you want to do, the coalition you want to do in this political party, I'm still contesting to run for president. That story is on the Blueprint newspaper this morning. Prioritized policy to achieve 50 trillion naira economy in 2026, Agbakoba tells the federal government. You find that story on page 20.
If I had the means, I would have made sure no Nigerians suffer. Oh, that's so touching. Well, this is coming from a former president. Goodluck Jonathan.
Okay, away from there, 2 children died, 3 injured in Kaduna blast. That story is on page 9, and we'll take this other story. Nigeria restricts tricycle Okada operations from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. on page 15 of the Blueprint newspaper this morning.
Okay.
And the sporting story here says, World Athletics relay Nigeria to participate in 4 events in China. That story is on page 32 of the Blueprint newspaper. And that takes us to the Business Day newspaper this morning, where we take the business story. IMF calls Nigeria's growth forecast on lower oil prices, warns of tougher times for commodity exporters. Okay. That story is on Business Day newspaper this morning.
Also on Business Day newspaper, Aso Rock solar plant amplifies national grid failure.
So the Aso Rock is going on solar panels now. So
I think there's so much talk about it. 10 million or 10 billion?
Yes, it's a B.
It's a B. Okay.
All right, away from there, tax bills target priority sectors to overhaul economy. You find that story on page 31 of the Business Day newspaper this morning. And that takes us to the next segment on the show this morning. The show is still Daybreak Live on Dominion Television, your channel of choice. Don't forget, you can watch us live on our website at dominion.org.ng, at dominion.org.ng. You can also do that by subscribing to our YouTube channel and watch us live at Dominion Broadcast. Make sure you link up with us on all other social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. It is at Dominion Broadcast. And on X, it is at Dominion Cast. We go on a short break, and when we return, Daybreak Live continues on Dominion Television. We'll be back after this time out. All right, welcome back from that short break. The show is still Daybreak Live on Dominion Television, your channel of choice. And you can watch us live on our YouTube channel at Dominion Broadcast. Subscribe to that channel and watch us live. You can also do that on our website at dominion.org.ng, at dominion.org.ng. Do well to link up with us on all the other social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Dominion Cast. And on X, it is at Dominion Cast. All right, the show continues, and we are now at the newspaper review segment where we bring you the major analysis. Don't forget, this is the station where we bring you unbiased analysis and undiluted reportage. Thank you for staying tuned this morning. We now start with a major headline that we've been talking about this morning, and that has a lot to do with how the National Assembly actually had to extend their recess. And to do that with us this morning is Sam Nwako. He's the deputy editor of the Nigerian Tribune. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Good
morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good to have you here.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Welcome to Dominion Television.
Thank you very much.
All right, as I said earlier, we'll be talking about a major issue going on in Nigeria. When an issue of insecurity is going on and economic hardship on the people is going on, the National Assembly have decided to extend their recess after going on a short break for the holiday, when there are, a lot of security news on the pages of the newspaper talking about killings in Benue, killings in Plateau, and of course the insurgency has not actually stopped in the northeast, in the north central, whatever it is in Nigeria. There's a security challenge or the other. But right now, people who have oversight functions to perform in Nigeria, especially in the angle of security, the National Assembly, the Senate, they have extended their recess. What's your take on this? Is this a time to do that? And they are extending this on security issues. Should they stay at home to discuss security issues, or be in the chamber to discuss security challenges in Nigeria?
Good morning once again, and thank you for having
me.
On two grounds. The first is that they would tell you that their extension of their recess is to, further extend their oversight, oversight functions on some of these issues that are on the table. But generally, on the second leg, we do not see them as people we can trust. So that creates a kind of a wedge between Nigerians and the members of the National Assembly. It's a problem for them to convince people that what they are doing is the right thing. That's a huge problem on their hands. For us as Nigerians who are observing what they are doing, I don't think they are doing well enough to win the confidence of the people, because whatever it is they are doing is not reflecting on what is going on in the society. Insecurity is so much that the president himself had to react when the, should I call it drag now? Where the dragging was so much that, look, you can't just go and be resting, say it's working visit. You can't be visiting in France and later England. And there are killings going on in Benue, in Adamawa, in everywhere around the country, and you just come around and you wouldn't even say anything about it. So the National Assembly, which has this role, in fact, I thought it was the National Assembly that should first have raised the matter and say, look, summon your members, come, let's discuss these things, because it's way beyond what you can discuss outside the chambers of the National Assembly. Put a seal to whatever decision you are taking on insecurity. Put a seal to it. Let the people believe you. Let the people see that you are doing something about what is going on. But unfortunately, the areas to which they react is when people call them out, like Pastor Tunde Bakari did, and they have now begun to respond to people who are calling them out, saying they are not a rubber stamp and so on. You are not the ones to tell us you are not rubber stamp.
There are so many religious leaders in the news in recent times who have condemned, the spate of killings in Nigeria. In
Nigeria, yes.
Reverend Matthew Kuka did that. Kaigama did that.
The Catholic Bishops Congress has done that. Kaigama spoke as an individual. Matthew Kuka, his statement was even the lead story of the Nigerian Tribune on Monday because it's profound. And, he was even on another level because they said he won't talk again. He has eaten dodo. He cannot speak Ododo again. He has now been given an appointment, so he cannot talk. Well, Kuka, the typical Kuka, came up to say, look, remove Nigerians from the cross. Take us down from the cross of insecurity and economic poverty and things like that. So Tunde Bakari is the only one they have now responded to, because he had played politics, maybe or maybe not. But the man, the man who is speaking about it, who happens to be the Senate spokesperson, Senator Adaramodu himself, is ordinarily and typically a politician. So why will he leave the issues raised by Pastor Bakari and be discussing the politics of the person of Pastor Bakari. So those are some of the things. Like I said, I don't trust them. They are politicians, and they are not doing enough.
In terms of priority, it raises a lot of concern. I think sometimes you might look at it as misplaced priorities, if you want to say it that way. Because these people, they are not just lawmakers, they are also representatives. You know, they represent different constituencies in the National Assembly. So how do you feel when your constituents are unsafe? I mean, you should be there for them during crisis.
You see,
now, sorry, sir, I just want to say this, that do you think, is it that this insecurity issue is too tough for our
I don't think
ladies?
so. I think they are not handling it the way it appears. A script is being played out. Look at it from, say, count 10 years back. You see that it's the same pattern. You know, it follows the same pattern, the same method of operation, the same kind of people, the same culprits, the same suspects, the same weapons, and so on and so forth. So when you now...
And we are using the same approach.
Yeah. In fact, the first thing is we keep quiet. When it gets to a breaking point, the government will now say, like Nuhu Ribadu went to Benue, and all that he said was that we are going to. They are still on promises. It shouldn't be.
He made a statement that security challenges in Nigeria is not as worse as what they have in Afghanistan. For a person of his stature,
to be comparing Nigeria to Afghanistan,
does it sit well with you that is comparing Nigeria with Afghanistan?
You know, it's unfortunate that things are turning out the way we are in for.
Do you consider that statement to be reckless?
It is definitely. You took the word out of my mouth. For me, as an individual, when you begin to dance around issues and leave them, then it creates a lump of suspicion which needs to be broken down. Like I was saying, they are the same suspects, the same kind of weapons, the same method, and these things are planned. They are not spontaneous attacks. If there are spontaneous attacks, you cannot expect it to be, I mean, if it was spontaneous, they won't remain in Benue, in Zaki Biam and so on as they have been. The ones they tried, you see, watch a place like Taraba State. They had to rise, you know, when T.Y. Danjuma said, if you remember what he said on NTA long before now, you know, people rose in defense of themselves. They say it's Chief Jukun. He said, no, this is not Chief Jukun thing. There are invaders coming in, and the pattern is that they want to do land grabbing. Now, we know the purpose, we know what it is, and so on, and yet the government responds the same old way. Then it means there's a plan being hatched. That's what I see as an individual, you know. And for the National Security Advisor to have gone to Benue to say that kind of thing. Indeed,
now, let's talk about the challenges. Before we go back to the National Assembly, the challenges we have in Plateau and Benue states, specifically, those two states in Nigeria right now. Does it have anything to do with land grabbing?
Yes. For me, yes. Because if it was not...
It is not just a tribal war.
It's not tribal war anymore. Because the tribes could call themselves... You know, at the end of the day, you come together, sit down and discuss some of these things. But the people who perpetrate these attacks, the suspects people point to. Reverend Father Alia said yesterday that these people came from Mali. If you see some of the videos that are out there, you will notice that
when you listen to them speak, according to him, he said they are Francophone speaking Hausas.
Yes. So it means that people bring them into this country to carry out the attacks, and somehow retreat. You know, they are coming here on a life and death mission. If you survive, if you don't, so be it. So what it means is that people are doing this to a certain to get a gain. There is something at the end of it for them. Now on land grabbing, which is the core question, we have had reports of communities which are sacked, and after they are sacked, when they come back, they find that a Seriki or what the Ibadan will call Mogaji has been appointed for that community, and he would be the one to now admit or not you into the community. A person told me in Southern Kaduna that they have stopped reporting attacks in their communities, that they have taken decision to defend themselves the way they know best. Wow. And since then, they've been able to, stop the attacks to a very large extent. The person said, we no longer report to the police, we no longer report to the army or any of all these federal government agencies. What we do now is we take our destiny in our hands.
That means they've lost hope.
They've lost hope. So that is how they have saved themselves from incessant reports of attacks in their communities. And they have left those people alone. If anything is coming, because what we are saying now, there is intelligence. The Yorubas will say, "Bashe gbonle okola gbonle ali," abi yawo let's not use ali. Now, if you are planning an attack, there is also somebody who would have to leak some of this information to some, intelligence. By the time you get your intelligence, you'll be able to plan on how to contain such attacks and so on. So when they have their own information, they have their own intelligence, they will be able to say, this is where we are going, this is how they are going to come, this is the estimated number of attackers. They come in droves, they come in very large numbers. How would you possibly tell me that Nigerian security system cannot spot 150, imagine 10 motorcycles riding across the street at a go. 10.
Will it be that difficult to spot?
The sound alone will attract some form of attention. Now, imagine 50 motorcycles, imagine more than that. And they will go, successfully carry their attacks, retreat, and nothing will happen.
And they have sophisticated weapons. I mean, these weapons are not...
Okay, let's now go back to the National Assembly. I want to ask you this question. And now, we are going to juxtapose reasons the National Assembly have given to extend their recess in recent times. Some of that has a lot to do with budgetary processes. We are still working on the budgets, and then let's postpone, and then we'll come back later. That is one. Constituency engagement. We have a thing or two to do in our constituencies, and then we have to be away. And then they talk about infrastructure renovation. The National Assembly has a little bit of infrastructural development that is meant to be done, and okay, we are going to stay away from a particular period of time, and then we'll be back. Then electoral participation. It is election period. We have to campaign, we have to do this, do that, and then for this reason, for this also period of time, we will not be around. But then, insecurity in Nigeria, a country like Nigeria, and then we're extending the recess, the National Assembly.
We need to rest.
Now, one of the questions I will ask in response to your question.
Let's talk about the oversight function of the House Committee on Security. Even if everyone wants to go on break, do they have the liberty to go on break at a time like this?
Well, they have liberty to go on break. But do they have the liberty to extend their break? No. It shouldn't. Not in a period like this. I'm saying this because those people who represent the affected communities should rise and say, look, gentlemen, distinguished, that's what they call themselves, distinguished senator, honorable member, we cannot continue
My people are dying.
We cannot continue to sit back and relax and enjoy our breaks when things like this are happening. You see, that tells you that we are operating in a kind of gamut. We have a chain of should I call it a command now? We have a chain of activities that are linked. Because when you analyze it the way you have raised, when you bring the reasons they have cited, you will notice that there is this indifference on the part of the authorities on what is going on in our society. If it does not affect the image of the government, it doesn't concern them. If it says security, go and sort it out yourself. It is about the economy. If you look at the economy, it's only in Nigeria. When you look at the inflation rate in other countries, all of them are way below 5%. It is only in Nigeria is 20 plus.
30 plus, thereabouts.
So all those ones do not concern the government. They don't. But if you say this government is not doing well and you speak loud, they will notice you, they will come for you and so on. So that insecurity looks, the way it is going, it looks like a plan is being executed. I keep saying this. Before now, there used to be, in fact, at some point I had to tell my reporter in Niger State, when it happens in Shiroro again, no send me the report. Me, Femo.
Why was that?
Because it has become so common. It happened when I was in Anambra. It's now, I mean, every story you write is insecurity in Shiroro local government. They have killed so every day. If you're famous, you know, now that is on the one hand. When I was in Anambra as a correspondent, I decided on my own to stop writing about kidnapping. That was in 2010. What I did was, because every story from Anambra then was, so person has been kidnapped. Kidnappers demand, so I said, what is this? Every day, I am no longer going. But thankfully, the governor then, this same Peter Obi now, the governor then took a very drastic step back then. What did he do? He said, look, if you as a community leader, they have this town union, very strong. He said, if you as the president of the town union, your town will find a kidnapping den in your town, first we dissolve your ESCO and arrest you. You, the traditional ruler, we will dethrone you and arrest you. You now tell us how it happened under your watch. So secure your community. That year, I think that should be either 2009 or 2010. That year, in fact, I was the one that said, gentlemen, I told correspondent, I said, we never hear of kidnapping in the last 2 weeks. Has anybody written anything? They say no. Say, Anambra don't change now. And people came home for the typical Christmas, and it was a very, very busy season. So why am I saying all this? The concerned lawmakers, whose duty it is to represent their constituents, their people, have kept quiet and now given everything to the Senate spokesperson to reply a pastor who has raised concern about their lethargy, about their inactivity. You know, the whole humdrum is staring us in the face and nobody seems to be concerned about it except Nigerians raise
this same set of reps who are quiet will try to seek re-election to offices.
They will.
Come the next election.
They won't try.
In fact, they're already doing permutation and combinations. That's how they want to get back into their offices.
Is 2027 not the issue now? That's the issue now. Somebody is forming a coalition. Somebody is responding to the person forming a coalition. What is it all about? And yesterday, on X, somebody made a post on X and said, okay, a bank announced a profit after tax, or maybe profit before tax, a profit of over 663 billion. When the bank announced it, and somebody now posted and said, let me see what they will use to campaign against Tinubu. This is the bank. This is a bank now declaring surplus profit. You see where that is going? They are already positioning themselves to say, yes, the economy is doing well because banks are declaring surplus profits. But the responses to that was that, okay, if the bank is declaring profit, what is the manufacturing sector saying? What are the other sectors? What is the inflation like and so on? So all I'm trying to say is that everything is pointing towards 2027. They are going to campaign. And it is still these same reps, these senators, and all the people around them, their aides, they will come. They will come here. They will come. They will move around. I practice journalism. I'm a reporter, so we are there. By the time they come, they will begin to tell you, forget it. We know we have learned our lessons. We are going to make amends. We are going to do it differently. And when they get back there,
they will end up doing it the same way.
When they get back there, they will go back to their seats.
Okay, you talked about business story this morning, and that takes us to business. There is a story on the Nigerian Tribune that says IMF projects 3% economic growth for Nigeria. And of course, if you go to the Business Day newspaper, IMF cuts Nigeria's growth forecast on lower oil prices, warns of tougher times for commodity exporters. This is not a good news for commodity exporters in Nigeria.
You see, when you look at the slant of the two stories, there is media management in it. Well, I'm a reporter, like I said. One is telling it point blank.
As it is.
Know it now that
and be prepared.
And be prepared. The other one is saying, no, let's not create panic in the society. I'm comparing the Nigerian Tribune
to the Business Day.
Business Day has said, that's it, deal with it. Tribune is saying, no, don't create panic in the society.
That's why the way around the video.
But the economic growth has been pegged at 3%. Before now, it was way beyond 3%. And it's even taking it from the positive angle. The positive angle is that the economic growth has been projected and left at 3%. US is about 1.5 because of the trade war between China and that's, but China's inflation is at 0. Nigeria's is at over 25%. So you now, as an individual, are expected to find a way to make yourself comfortable in this whole chaos. But is the government concerned? I don't think so. Government is already at, our CBN and the entire team. They are I think in New York, where they are holding the IMF meeting. When they come back now, they'll tell you the gains, the things they gained from the meeting and so on and so forth. But hey, how does that affect
the common man?
Sam Nwoko that goes to buy noodles for his children, or Sam Nwoko that's expected to pay transportation for his children, and so on and so forth?
Oftentimes we see reports on the economy and they're talking about inflation, but then it doesn't really affect day-to-day activities. They are just on paper.
Exactly what we are saying. The whole thing is, in fact, it has got to a point that you no longer trust our National Bureau of Statistics. They will give you figures and you say no. Even me, will not be economist. I know, say this figure. You get us in it. That's because they are finding ways they are finding mellifluous ways to tell you to go to hell and have a nice trip. It's very difficult for the government to come out straight and say, okay, these are 4, 5, 6 things that have happened, and Nigerians will say, yes, we know that these things have happened. And what are these things that are happening? Everybody knows the rate of, in fact, you can't plan for 6 months. 6 months. You can't plan for 3 months. Inflation will alter your plan. Everybody knows that. If anybody wants to ask me for advert rates in Tribune now, they will say, how much is so now? Because they know that last week it was this. That's
so I want to know whether it's still the same or not.
Whether it's still the same or not. Is government doing anything about that? No. They are only forcing you to believe that they are doing something. What are they doing? You and I do not know. If you know, maybe you can help us. But I do not know, because we know very well that the only thing that has changed is more money in the pocket of the states to share. And how does that money affect and impact the economy? We are yet to determine that. That more money too, is the value the same as it was some 4, 5, 3 years ago? No, you and I know this. If you say, like the bank that declared 663 billion, in real values, if it had declared maybe 400, when the dollar was still, when Naira was still stronger against the dollar, you would have said, okay, this is very good.
Let me ask you this simple question before Ebi comes in this morning. How difficult can it be to fix the Nigerian economy?
It is.
Or how simple can it be? Is it rocket science?
It is not rocket science. It's just the lack of political will. And for me, as an individual, after several years of looking at this question, I've come to agree with myself, for the sake of peace of mind, I have come to agree with myself that it looks like Nigeria is an enterprise created for certain people to run it the way they like. And that is exactly what I see.
Are some people milking Nigeria?
Okay, look at what is happening at the West African coast. When the coup in Niger happened, followed by that in Chad, and then Traoré came in Burkina Faso, people that raised concern are not African countries. It is some foreign countries, some foreign powers who said, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. And those ones say, hey, don't tell us this is how we want to run our country. And we are still on it today. Up to yesterday, the news coming from that part of the world is so-called the assassination plan. Traoré is sitting on it.
Has been made on his life.
Very good. And up to yesterday, the reports are still that they are planning for this guy. Why? What is Kilo Kong? Waiting be their own. Okay, we say, okay, we belong to the United Nations. Do they not have to sit in their own places and allow us to trade the way we want to do? And so I think that fixing our economy is dependent on what the puppeteers tell the people who are under the string, the puppets. I won't say more than that.
Okay, so still talking about, still on the business angle, I'm just trying to look at, when you talk of the economy, power. You know, from this administration, the grid collapse has been something else compared to before. The grid has been collapsing off and on. Now, with this Aso Rock solar plant, we are hearing that it has amplified national grid failure. What would you say about that? I mean, the solar for one.
If the Aso Rock is going to run on solar,
for 10 billion.
Let's even leave the 10 billion naira budget for that solar aside. That one another kettle of fish entirely.
Maybe I'm looking at the grid issue now.
Now, I saw a joke. That's why I was laughing. I saw a joke. Somebody said, the man will promise us stable electricity, don't go buy solar.
What's it remain again?
So you are now on your own. But that said, one of the initial thoughts I had when this issue came up was, okay, maybe they are going to free the grid, some of the things that go to Aso Rock, some of the power that go to Aso Rock, maybe they will free it now into the general grid, and maybe we'll have some. The Daily Trust reported yesterday or the day before yesterday that only 2 hours of electricity is supplied to certain states which it listed. I didn't read that story because I don't know how many hours of electricity I get myself. So their concern is that part of the country. My concern is what happens to me around here for now. When they have their concern, I have my concern. Government is our general concern. Now, when I thought, okay, there will be more power from that grid, freed into the general grid, there will be more electricity for people. And I was like, how much power goes to that Aso Rock itself? I asked that question. And on the second thought, I also asked myself, if there is no more Aso Rock to service from the national grid, how safe are we when this grid collapses and the Aso Rock is not there? They will say, after all, Aso Rock is not there. So if you raise your wahala, if you make noise, make your noise. So what it tells me is that, yes, Aso Rock is still going to be on the national grid, but the urgency to bring it back on its feet, because if they collapse, it keeps falling like a child who's learning how to walk. At the end of everything, what it means is that they have left us with our collapsing, our epileptic national grid.
You can manage that.
And you can deal with it. I have solar to run my life, and it's a big problem. I don't know. A lot of people have raised concerns. Government said, no, that we should see the positives instead of the negatives. Until we begin to see the positives, I don't know any positives.
Sam Woko, thank you for joining us this morning.
I'm very grateful for this privilege.
It's been a wonderful session with you.
Thank you.
We know that next time we call you, you'll be here.
By God's grace, I will.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
All right, the show is still Daybreak Live on Dominion Television. And of course, we go straight to Trend Watch this morning as Osare Nomaesaba is waiting. Good morning to you, Osare.
Good morning, Samson. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you doing too?
I'm good, thank you. Here to give
you
you
look
all
stunningly
the tea.
beautiful this morning.
Thank you. You look good as well.
I'm sure you have a lot in store for us this morning.
Of course, now trust me, I got you.
Just do your thing.
All right, so I mean, you're here to have your front row seat to all that is happening on the streets of social media. So welcome to Trend Watch here on Dominion Television. My name is Osare Nomaesaba, but most people know me as the Edo Queen. You can probably call me the police of trends. Okay, so now starting on our first story. Is there trouble in paradise? Now, this is, from the stables of Obi Cubana. Recently, he celebrated his 50th birthday, but now he's being dragged because, a few people are saying that he should have handled situations better. Now, what happened is your question. I'm here to answer it. All right. So, recently, we know Obi Cubana has 5 sons. Right, so recently his first son, who is an adopted son, name of Chidi, posted a video on TikTok with this viral TikTok challenge. I think it's next of kin challenge here. So he posted the video and, with the caption, having his eyes, on the prize being the next of kin. And, apparently shortly after that, Obi Cubana decided to make another post, right, talking about his other son, named Alex, being the actual next of kin. So, basically just dissing his, sons, now the adopted sons, initial, TikTok video. So, I mean, a few people are like, why are you embarrassing your son this way? If he's your adopted son, he's still your son anyways. And what is wrong with him actually being your next of kin? So, I mean, there's a tussle here and tussle there. Giving that Chidi in the video is a year older than Alex, his actual biological, son, who actually should be the next of kin in this situation. So, I mean, really, is there trouble in paradise? But I mean, there's still a possibility that this could be an inside joke, because a few days ago, Obi Cubana actually said all his 5 sons are his next of kin. What do not think? Who truly is the next of kin? Right? But then he now made this differentiation, saying Chidi is his superstar next of kin, while Alex, his biological son, is his strategic next of kin. But of course, trust social media to be social media. We'll just take a look at a few comments to see what people have to say about Obi Cubana being in the news, on this. We have Queen Esther saying, this is exactly what hatred amongst children brings. He would have just settled this issue at home instead of posting it. Deep sigh. And Ashandi says, an adopted son or child means he or she is also your child and is a next of kin too. Otherwise, no need to adopt if you're not willing to give equal treatment. So pretty much the gist here is, can't your adopted child also be your next of kin? I mean, from Obi Cubana's story, we can see there are 2 sides to this coin. But of course, I would love to read your comments, so just drop your comments in the comment section down below. Of course, moving away from Obi Cubana's family, with the glitz and glam of JP 2025. Of course, we've given you all the gist of how it happened. But, Beauty Goddess was not at the wedding. And then, she did this live on social media where she was, talking about how she didn't go, how she couldn't go because she had, a vacation planned. And, she was sort of dismissive, or what's the English I will give it? She disregarded the fact that, she wasn't there and she couldn't, change her schedules to be there. And really, nobody really, I think the wedding went out without you. Did we notice your absence? I don't know. Was it explanation necessary? I don't know. But she anyways did the live, sharing why she was there, why she was not there, and, what her absence would have meant, and, how pretty much they're not even close. That's her and Priscilla are not even close. And, it brought mixed reactions. So, I mean, we now saw that the now Mrs. Mkambala has unfollowed Beauty on Instagram. So, it looks like Priscilla didn't take this, lightly. And I think Beauty has eventually realized that the things she do logical, makes sense. So, you know, she eventually, you know, posted on her, you know, on her page apologizing, you know, for her actions. Probably was misread, misconstrued. Isha didn't really make sense. But, I mean, one with Priscilla now, given how JP 2025 went, it was not just Priscilla she offended all the online in-laws as well. And we will see that in some of the comments, you know. So we'll see how Beauty offending, you know, Priscilla actually is offending the masses, all right, given how, you know, the JP 2025 went. So let's see a few other comments, you know, based off of this story, all right. And Chelsea says, but to be fair, this apology is a very honest and decent one. She took accountability. So maybe we say it's a good thing that Beauty actually, you know, owned her actions and came out to apologize. But maybe next time, don't actually make the action. And Beth Crown says, apologies, seen, not accepted, and you remain in the blocked zone where you belong. You can see people are not taking this, like people are angry. Beauty, people, we are angry on behalf of Priscilla. And the final comments on this story still, we see where, you know, someone even criticized that she did not even type the Mr. and Mrs. well because she apologized to Mr. and Mrs. in Kambala, right? So she did not even type the Mr. and Mrs. well, right? So people are actually quite vexing on this one. But I mean, your absence wasn't really felt, so maybe we can just move away from that. And, you know, we're hoping and anticipating the JP 2025 in Tanzania for the final laps, okay? And now for the final story. This is about babies and offsprings. It was an interesting one seeing Maraji post yesterday, you know, about how she's expecting her third child. Now, she got married in 2021, had her first child in April 2022, and her second child in January 2024. And we thought that was it. But it's like she did not want to stop there, because now she's announced that she is having her third child, and she posted this on her Instagram page yesterday. And there was a particular comment that caught my attention where, you know, someone actually said it's like she and Josh Tufoni are in the same category, because I mean recently as well, you know, Josh Tufoni and his wife also, you know, just announced their own birth of their third child as well. So I mean, people are thinking with the state of the economy, maybe 1 or 2 children is okay, but these people, they say no, they want to keep having their children. But I mean, in this case, Maraji actually said in her YouTube video where she announced this, that she genuinely enjoys having children. I mean, all the best to them, and of course congratulations are due for them as well. And of course we're winding it over on Trend Watch right now, but we know that we're coming back again on Friday for 2 For Your Trouble. Okay, I will be joined by Big Mo, and we will be gisting you again on all that is happening on the streets or social media. So I'll just be ending it here and handing over to Samson and Evie.
Oh, sorry, that particular story of Obi Kubana announcing who is strategic, you know, next of kin is, and the other next of kin, I think that shouldn't be taken to social media. Yes. That should be a thing you discuss, you know, in the corners of your room.
Inside, yes.
Inside. Shouldn't really even make a topic, even in the house. It should be a thing you know by yourself. Making this known now creates a sort of division in the house, especially at a time like this when, you know, they all know the money is there. And you could see from that video posted that, you know, he could do anything, knowing that he knows that he's the next of kin.
Precisely.
That is really, really. But then they're talking about having children every year. That really, really is, well, maybe he wants to, you know, just do everything and then have the time
once
to relax.
And certificates.
But then I think Hebi has a lot to say about, you know, how you know, you arrange your, you know, children
Spacing
to make
your
sure that, you know, the gap is not too.
All right, now I'd like to hear from her.
No, I don't really have. I'm just saying, well, if they can afford it, because when people say, you know, you have kids, you know, based on, just like you said, this economy. The economy is not hitting everybody like that.
True, sure.
And you know, anybody that wants a child actually knows that economy. So if economy is hooking you, then you know go the, you know,
having a child every year, that's a lot. You know, this is not about the money anymore. It's about you being able to go for, you know, kids that are barely older than each other. For the woman, I'm saying it's a huge stress. Because if you want to say the man, might be supportive, but there's a little a man can do when it comes to, you know, raising a child. You are most probably going to bear the brunt. You take the risks. He probably has a chance to, you know, have fun with his friends, be outside, you know, take his time.
I agree with you.
But then for the woman, don't you think it might worn out, you know, too soon?
Yeah, it might wear her out because to carry belly is not an easy
thing. To be very honest, it's not easy. But I mean, in this case, Marachi said she genuinely enjoys having children.
So you see what we are saying? So they've agreed on it. Yes. It's an agreement.
All right, Osare, thank you for joining us on
Daybreak Live this
morning. Yeah.
Thank you.
But then, Ebi, let's go back to this particular topic because I'm quite interested in this.
All right, I'm saying.
Talking about having a child every year, there's nothing bad in it. If you can afford it, it's fine. But then, affording it is not just about the financial aspect.
I agree with you.
Do you have, you know, what it takes, the mental will to go through it when it finally dawns on you that you are in it already? It's not just a thing you do, and you say, oh, I think because I cannot do it, let me just withdraw. You have done it, and you have to bear the brunt.
I agree with you on that case because body, you know, 9 months is not easy.
It will tell on you.
And you know, for some people when they have a child, you know, health-wise, they might tell you don't have another child for now.
For a particular period of time.
Yes. And then sometimes, you see, when it comes to marriage, you really can't say, you know, I've seen people who have said, no, after this one, in the next 5 years, the next year it don't happen.
You don't born.
You are a man day for house now. What do you expect? But then that's why we have, you know, precautionary measures to take. Not because we don't want, but you know, you are checking a lot of things. But hey, sometimes they say every family with their own. With
their own issue. All right, the show continues. It is Daybreak Live on Dominion Television, and of course, Boluwaji Ogumola is waiting on the sport desk this morning. Bolu, good morning.
Good morning to you, Samson, and good morning to you, Ebi.
Good morning, Boluwaji.
Yes, it's good to be here once again to dish out all of the updates coming from the world of sport. All right, let's kick things started this morning from the Nigerian Premier Football League, where the Nigerian Premier Football League body have imposed a 3.5 million naira fine on Academy Warriors for crowd trouble during their last game against Ikorodu City. The NPFL also ordered the closure of their stadium, that's the Academy Warriors Stadium in Maiduguri, to fans for the remainder of the season. Recall that Academy Warriors supporters damaged Ikorodu City's vehicle after the match. Supporters of the club also threw objects onto the field of play during the encounter. The club is required to submit a written response, either indicating acceptance of the ruling or opting to appeal before a disciplinary panel. NPFL has recently intensified its clampdown on clubs over security lapses this season. Remember that a few weeks ago it was Shooting Stars, and this time around it is El Kanemi Warriors. From there, let's talk female football. As NWFL matches we hold today across various centers. It is match day 13, and there is indeed a lot to play for. As after this match day, we will have just one left in the regular season. And in Group A, Nasarawa Amazon, who are third on the table in Group A, will take on Edo Queens, who are unbeaten in the league so far this season. Conference Queens will slug it out with Ekiti Queens. And at the Oneko Stadium in Lagos, Danas Ladies will entertain Atlant Queens. At the Umaya Township Stadium in Umaya, Abia Angels will take on Remo Stars Ladies, who are second in that particular group. Let's go to Group B, where Bayelsa Queens are unbeaten so far in that group, and they will be the guest of second-placed Rivers Angels. Obeno Queens will also entertain Adama Queens in Lafia, while at the Stephen Kechi Stadium in Asaba, Delta Queens will take on Niger Rattles. Well, in Uyo today, we would have Ibom Angels, of course, taking on their counterpart from Lagos, that's FC Robo Queens. From there, still talking female football this lovely morning. Let's take a look at its implication on the table so far. In Group A, like I mentioned earlier, Edo Queens are still topping the pack. Yes, they're unbeaten this season, I must say. They've won 10 matches and drawn 2. They have 32 points. Remo Stars are second. Yes, having lost twice this season. They've drawn twice and won 8 so far, and they have 26 points. Nasarawa Amazons occupy the third position with 25 points as well. And there you have the likes of Abia Angels, Ekiti Queens, Heartland Queens, Danas Ladies, and Conference Queens already in the relegation zone. Let's take a look at Group B, where Bayelsa Queens are unbeaten in that group. They've drawn twice. They've won 9 games, having played 12 matches. They have 13 points in total. Rivers Angels from Port Harcourt, they've lost just once this season. They've drawn twice and won 9 matches as well to have 29 points. Just 1 point adrift Bayelsa Queens. FC Robo Queens occupy the 3rd position. Nigeria Tools are 4th. Delta Queens, Ibom Angels, Adamawa Queens. Then in the relegation waters, we've got Benue Queens. Well, let's take a look at what the goal scorers chart looks like this morning. The Nigeria Women Football League are very competitive, and I must tell you that Remo Stars ladies are dominating right there as well. Bolaji Olamide has scored 10 goals. She plays for Remo Stars ladies. Or for Mary, also has 10 goals. She plays for Rivers Angels. Ajakayo Okpeyemi plays for FC Robo Queens. She has 8 goals, as well as Janet of Nasarawa Amazons. Well, let's move away from female football this morning. No, rather, we'll remain with some female football actually. Yes, and talk about the President's Federation Cup, where matches will be played on the 3rd of May, and we have the confirmed fixture for the women's round of 16. Rivers Angels will take on First Mahia Babes on the 3rd of May. Remo Stars ladies will take on Dana's ladies. Delta Queens versus Ibom Angels. Omeg will take on Heartland Queens. Ocean Babes versus Edo Queens. Mighty Jets Matter versus Unification FC. Sunshine Queens versus Confluence Queens. Natural Amazons versus Bayelsa Queens. And that's it for the round of 16 of this year's President Federation Cup for the ladies. From there, let's travel to Egypt and inform you that the Flying Eagles of Nigeria yesterday defeated their counterparts from Egypt by 2-1 in a pre-under-20 AFCON friendly match decided in Cairo yesterday. Parobo Areri opened the scoring for the Flying Eagles in the 10th minute of the game, while the Young Pharaohs equalized in the 65th minute of the encounter, courtesy of Ahmed Kabaka's beautiful strike. The Nigerians secured victory through a precious Benjamin penalty 7 minutes from time. Now the Flying Eagles are expected to play 1 more friendly match before the start of the Under-20 AFCON. Let me remind you that the boys are in Group B alongside Tunisia, Morocco and Kenya. Well, the Flying Eagles' first match is against Tunisia, and that will be next week Thursday. We wish the boys all the very best. From there, let's talk track and field, where Nigeria's track queen, Tobiloba Amusan, will return to action for the first time since Paris 2024 Olympics, when she takes part in the Xiamen Diamond League. Don't forget that the last time she won the track was in the Olympic in Paris 2024, and this is her first outing. Let me remind you that she is actually the defending champion of the Diamond League in the 100-meter hurdles event. And this will be a good preparation for the World Athletics Championship coming up in Japan later on in the year. We wish our track queen all the very best. The Xiamen Diamond League holds this weekend, 26th of April, and we will definitely monitor proceedings on the show. Let's talk the NBA. It's the playoff season, and as you can see on your screen, 3 matches were played in the early hours of today. And interesting result to share with you for Los Angeles Lakers. Well, they took Game 2 in the series. Of course, now having the series at 1-1, following yesterday night's beautiful win over the Minnesota Timberwolves, 94-85 points. Let me inform you that their Game 3 we hold on Friday. In the other game played in the early hours of today, the OKC Thunders, Oklahoma City Thunders, of course, got better of the Memphis Grizzlies. Yes, as you can see on your screen, 118-99 points to take a 2-0 lead in that series. Let me inform that their Game 3 we hold on Thursday. And for the third game, we saw, of course, it was Indiana Pacers who took Game 2 with that 123-115 points victory to lead 2-0 in the series. And Game 3 will tip off on Friday. Trust us for more updates on this show. Away from the NBA, let's check out boxing this morning, where Britain Tommy Fury will make a return to the ring against Kenan Khandalik in Budapest on the 9th of May. The 25-year-old cruiserweight has not fought since beating YouTuber KSI. Also, of course, whose real name is actually Olajide William Olatunji, in a boxing match about 18 months ago. Now, it's been confirmed that Tommy Fury will return to the ring after a long break. Don't forget that he had surgery after that fight against KSI, but now he's in past fits and is good to go. Well, let's return to the world of football, where matches were played in Europe yesterday. Let's take a look at what we have on our screen. Yesterday in the Premier League, Manchester City moved to third position on the table following a 2-1 victory over Aston Villa. Well, over, the Champions League, fighting team, Aston Villa, yesterday. They're both fighting for a place in the Champions League, and the victory yesterday for Manchester City did just enough magic to ensure that they climbed to third position on the Premier League table behind Liverpool and Arsenal Football Club. Matthew Nunes has scored a stoppage time winner in that game after Marcus Rashford had equalized for Aston Villa. Well, also yesterday, as you can see, in Spain, Valencia and Espanyol played out a 1-1 draw, while FC Barcelona defeated Mallorca 1-0 at home to extend their lead at the top of the La Liga over Real Madrid to 7 points. And let's take a look at Barcelona this morning. They are in the running of winning 3 trophies this season. Treble. They are topping in the La Liga. In the Champions League, they are in the semi-finals. And of course, Copa del Rey, they are already in the finals. So something special is indeed happening at the club this season. And how they'll be able to hold on to the end, only time will tell. Well, back to the results. Nantes will take on Nantes yesterday. Took on Paris Saint-Germain, and it ended 1-1. PSG had to settle for a 1-1 draw in that game yesterday. But then, let's take a look at what to expect later today in the Premier League. Arsenal will host Crystal Palace at 8 p.m. today. Now, something special about this game is a win for Crystal Palace against Arsenal will hand Liverpool the trophy tonight. Yes, that's the situation. I'm sure that Liverpool fans will be praying, or for the first time ever, maybe, will support Crystal Palace. Pray that Crystal Palace get to win, so they will lift the trophy even without kicking the ball. That's the situation. Then on Saturday, we have more games in the Premier League. Well, let me sign out with this interesting story coming from Turkey this lovely morning, where our own Victor Osimhen actually was on parade for his club yesterday. That's Galatasaray, as they trashed Konyaspor 5-1 to secure a place in the Turkish Cup final. Let me inform you that it was our own Victor Osimhen's goal number 30 this season. He opened the scoring, as you can see on your screen. Congratulations to our own Victor Osimhen. And that's sports this morning. Back to you, Samson and Abby.
All right, thank you, Bolu, for joining us this morning. Good to have you on the show.
Absolutely.
All right, it's about time we draw the curtains on today's edition of Daybreak Live on Dominion Television. Don't forget, success doesn't come from things you do occasionally. It comes from things you do consistently. Samson Balogun is my name. Until tomorrow, I stay safe.
All right, have a wonderful Wednesday. Thank you so much for staying tuned and watching Daybreak Live on Dominion Television. See you some other time. My name is Abby Dickinson. God bless Nigeria.
Bye for now.
Someone told me that at the last count, there are about 53 radio stations within the broadcast landscape alone. And I said, yes, why not? We are here to make a difference. I said something yesterday, I was told when I was very young. That in Obi, Latin, your which means that in the committee of metals, the platinum stands top. It's top-notch. You cannot compare the platinum to gold, to silver, to brass, or to anything. So Dominion is here to dominate in practical terms.